morning. My name is Courtney Morano, and I'm an educational consultant for Flyover Zone. And today we are going to talk to you about a little project we worked on to talk about how Yorescape, an app developed by Flyover Zone, might be useful for teachers, grades 6 through 12 specifically. So first of all, what is Yorescape? It is a product developed by Flyover Zone, which is a virtual tourism company. And the app allows you to take a virtual tour of ancient sites whenever you want, listen to experts explaining what you're going to see, and you can go back and visit as often as you like. So it seemed that there was a great opportunity here for educators to incorporate this into their lessons, particularly history teachers, Latin teachers, many different subjects can utilize this app. And there are over a dozen full-length virtual tours. They average, from an hour to 3 hours. There are sites now in Egypt, Mesoamerica, Athens, Rome. And with this app, you'll really get to see all of these ruins spring to life. And again, just have that access to experts explaining what you are seeing. So I want to give you kind of a little glimpse at what this content will look like. This is more of a fly-through video, but you can see some of the ancient reconstructions that have been done. And here we see the Roman Forum. So again, just get a good glimpse of the types of content that you're going to see. But with the tours, you get that added bonus of having the expert commentary come in. So we wanted to get an understanding of what teachers would be thinking about this. So what are some ways that teachers think that they could use this? What are some obstacles? What are their suggestions? So we worked with some focus groups of teachers, again, focusing on 6th through 12th grade in various subjects. They were mostly history teachers, some Latin teachers, as well as some museum educators that deal with developing content a lot for these grades. So the Zoom sessions were done sort of as front-end testing to discuss what teachers would be expecting from an application like this. There were in-person meetings as well, as some teachers, just based on their busy schedule, needed more of a self-directed experience with some directions. And the way that we structured this, again, we did some front-end testing. They were given pre and post surveys, experience surveys, were interviewed. So there was a lot of times that I was talking to the teachers and getting their feedback and recording their questions and answers as well. So the pre-app experience survey, we were really looking at, the demographics, who these teachers were. And again, this was mostly history and Latin teachers, as well as what they were expecting from an app experience. So sort of the things that stood out, it's not a big shock, but most of the teachers were looking for apps with associated lesson plans and concepts, so ideas on how to use it. Of course, 75% were looking for curricular connections. How do they make this really work with the curriculum that they're teaching? There was some concern about cost, of course, and it was interesting that roughly half, not quite half, 41% of teachers are already using apps of some sort in the classroom. So many people had experience with incorporating apps into the classroom. So we wanted to test their in-app experience. So the teachers were given access to the Roman Forum version of Yorescape, where you can explore the Roman Forum, and they were given instructions and directions and asked to follow some steps. So here's just a screenshot of the map feature that you would find on Yorescape that gives you the different stops. You would click on any of these stops, and the teachers were directed to follow them in order and then to give us feedback. Some of it was user experience feedback, so thinking about how they found the experience, but then also really asking them to think about what they thought of the content, what they liked about it, what more they needed, and of course, ideas on how to incorporate it into the classroom. So there's just an example of some images of some of the stops that they might visit. Again, all of these stops are going to have that expert commentary if you were doing that version. So if we wanted to know then what teachers thought of it, of course, after the experience. So after they were walked through those instructions, what did we learn? What did we learn from what the teachers were saying? So there's some exciting aspects. Of course, they were really excited about the way ancient architecture was brought to life, as you can see just from some of the examples I showed. The expert commentary they found very helpful. The free choice, they like the ability to walk around themselves because there is a free choice. You can choose different stops to go to. You can choose them in different order. So there's a lot of free choice within this app. the ability to move around. So within the app experience, you can sort of move the view that you were looking at and getting that full immersive 360-degree view. And teachers are really excited about the context. So the context that those expert voices were providing was really in depth. They love the historical details, the political leaders, learning more about some of the political leaders that they might be studying. And then daily life. So thinking about, in this case, Roman daily life in and around the Roman Forum. So what were teachers thinking about how they might incorporate this into the classroom? And the app, is really designed to be flexible. So we didn't have, one way that we were thinking teachers would use it, and teachers don't have one way they're thinking about using it. But what was needed for them to incorporate it? So more context. So it's not a big surprise, teachers wanted more context, more information. So they were telling us that things like glossary of terms and timeline would be helpful. If there was in-app supplementary experience and images, associated lesson concepts, of course, and then how they might use it. Teachers were, again, just thinking very flexibly, which was perfect at the way that we were thinking about how they might incorporate it. A teacher could lead an experience, asking prompting questions, so being more of the one leading, more of a traditional format, or maybe the students are assigned stops with specific prompts to investigate. Or even more free choice, allowing students to choose stops and thinking about where they want to take further avenues of inquiry or exploration. So what did we do with all of this information? So once we did the interviews and discussions with teachers, we worked to develop content for two of the experiences right now. So the Roman Forum and the Athenian Acropolis, we developed thematic lesson plans and concepts, and then pretty extensive vocabulary lists with glossaries of terms. Now, if you were to go to the Flyover Zone website, just to give you an example of where you might see that, if you were to click on the Roman Forum, you'd scroll down, and you could get to the educational resources, the vocabulary list, as well as the lesson concepts here. And so just wanted to give you an idea of what those types of things include. So what does a lesson concept include? Each of them, for the Athenian Acropolis as well as the Roman Forum, each have 4 lesson concepts. They have slightly different themes. This is the one on the Roman Forum. There's 4 themes. One on culture, time, continuity, and change, power, authority, and governance, and myth and religion, as well as an extensive vocabulary list. Now, these thematic lessons, many of them work directly with the national social studies standards that they have developed for the country, so for the national social studies standards. So just thinking of the widest possible approach that we could theme these lessons on. Now, each lesson component is going to have an introduction and a project background to the entire project. So whatever it is that, if you're at the Roman Forum, you're going to learn a little bit more about how that project started. There's going to be background information for teachers and students. And of course, it all centers around an essential question. So what is a big question or an important question that can sort of be your through line or your storyline as you explore the content? And then there's the thematic introduction, so thinking about how to get everyone on the same page with definitions. And then each of them has the similar goals of exploring, synthesizing, connecting, reflecting, and sharing. So we want everyone to approach these lessons with those ideas in mind. And of course, there's instructions with stop suggestions, and then the activity of actually doing the synthesis, connection, reflection, and sharing. All right, so real quick, just running through what that might look like for the Roman Forum. The essential question is, how are the art, architecture, and monuments of the ancient Roman Forum an expression of Roman culture? And then what supporting questions can we ask? So just kind of posing that question to students, giving them the definition of culture that, again, is defined by the National Council for the Social Studies, just getting everyone on the same page with these definitions. The goal is just reiterating that exploring, synthesizing, connecting, reflecting, and sharing. The teachers are going to have obviously some more specific directions that they can again alter. We want this to be as flexible as possible. Some suggested stops. So they might be walked through these stops or exploring on their own, but they're going to always keep that essential question, that big question in the back of their mind. So then when it gets to the synthesizing part, how do you think about what you have just experienced? So just taking all of those stops that you saw and tying those ideas together. How do you make them connect? So connect and reflect. So again, just always coming back to those concepts of synthesizing, connecting, and reflecting, and thinking about what is similar to your own life. What are you still curious about? And then again, just thinking about your own life, both sort of deeper than what you're physically seeing to what you might experience in your life connected to religion or politics. So thinking with big themes in mind. And of course, this idea of sharing. So we want students to be able to share what they've learned, shared what they're still curious about. So having them maybe work together or sharing out loud with the class. So what is next for us? So we're going to continue to develop these types of things, continue working with teachers. We really want to make sure that we're working in partnership with educators. We want to produce some timelines that might be helpful for scaffolding information, and then looking at ways to have the ability for teachers to share what they've done, to share how they've used it, because no one can say it better than a teacher. Well, that kind of concludes just a very brief look at what we did and how we worked with some teachers. But be sure, if you haven't already, to visit the Flyover Zone booth in booth 307. Thank you